Today I have countless dad jokes for you, compilation of them from the past 6 months or so. Just testing this out, I think it'd be fun. I do like my dad jokes, so buckle in and get ready for the funniest and cringiest dad jokes ever. Enjoy. Why did Kamala Harris lose the election? She lacked conviction. While I was making dinner, I was using a couple of bags of frozen veggies, a bag of peas, and a bag of sliced carrots. And being that they're small, I only cut little triangles on the corners of the bags and poured them into the pot. Upon seeing me do this, my kid says, "Oh, so you're cheating tonight?" Trying to defend myself, I quickly responded, "Well, I use frozen veggies from time to time because they're still good for you." They actually really are. She looked at me with her chin down and eyes up and coldly said, Yeah, but you're cutting corners tonight." Never been so proud. I accidentally handed my girlfriend the glue stick instead of the chapstick. She still isn't speaking with me. Accidentally? Doubt. My wife said that she's divorcing me, saying that I was too un-American. Saw it coming from a kilometer away. I'm so tired of trying to figure out what equals 86,400 seconds. Let's just call it a day. The nurse asked my mom which arm would give the best reading for her blood pressure. My mom replied, "Probably yours." I expect so. Teacher, name a country without the letter R in it. Student, no way. My girlfriend's dog died, so I tried to cheer her up by getting her an identical one. It just made her more upset. She screamed at me and said, "What am I supposed to do with 2 dead dogs?" Bad day at work today. I cut 2 fingers off my hand. I asked the doctor if I would still be able to write with it. He said, "Probably, but I wouldn't count on it." When I was interviewed for a job, I was told I would start at $2,000 a month, and then after 6 months, I'd get $2,500 a month. I told her I would start in 6 months. Why? Just skip the initiation period. I politely complimented my wife on a quilt that she had recently made. I thought she'd be happy, but instead, she gave me a long explanation of why it's a blanket, not a quilt. If you ask me, she's being a little nitpicky. I just deleted all the German names off my phone. It's Hans free. How does a man satisfy his wife in bed? By sleeping on the sofa. You know, it's a funny joke, but I actually think separate bedrooms for couples is a good idea. You don't always have to use them, but having your own space it's a wise idea. Why didn't Luke Skywalker get married and have kids like his father? He was looking for love in Alderaan places. What search engine does Mario use? Yahoo! My wife used to be afraid of the dark. One night I turned the light on when I was naked. Now she's afraid of the light. Gotta hit the gym, buddy. What do you call a dinosaur that takes care of its teeth? A flossiraptor. My wife and kids are upset because I put ginger in their curry. They love that cat. Oh my god, this one's terrible. Just terrible. Why should you never eat a clock? It's too time-consuming. Why was 6 afraid of 7? Because 7 was odd. That's good. I always heard the one, why was 6 afraid of 7? Because 7 ate 9. Who does Beyonce call when she needs her roof replaced? All the shingle ladies. Watched a blacksmith pick up a molten hot ingot with his bare hands. Asked him what his trick was. He laughed and said, "Pick him up by the corners. They're only 90 degrees. My wife thought I was invading her privacy. I know because she wrote about it in her diary. I guess she's onto something. I asked my wife why she married me. She said, "Because you're funny." I said, "I thought it was because I was good in bed." She said, "See, you're hilarious." Damn, shots fired. When asked about the new wall, 94% of Mexicans were initially disappointed, but after a while, they would eventually get over it. Ordering a $40 pizza Having it delivered $5. Having your kids eat the whole thing before you get home? Sliceless. Damn thieves. Matched with a woman on Tinder, and after some chatting, I asked what she did for a living. She replied that she was a content creator on YouTube. I said, "Must be nice knowing you're satisfied with the videos you make." Yes, I too am a content video creator. I suspect my wife has been pouring glue on my antique gun collection. She denies it, but I'm sticking to my guns. My wife caught me holding in my stomach while standing on the bathroom scales. That's not going to help you, you idiot. It does. It's the only way I can see the numbers. My wife stopped me from taking my first bite at the restaurant, saying that we need to pray first. Nah, there's no need, I replied. But why? She asked. We always pray at home when I cook dinner. Because I think we'll be fine here. The chef knows what he's doing. Someone sleeping on the couch, huh? Donald Trump has signed an order banning the sale of shredded cheese. He wants to make America great again. What do you call a man with no arms and legs trying to water ski? Skip. My son is now at that age where he's curious about the human body. I guess I'll have to hide it somewhere else now. How long has it been sitting out there? I was in a band once called Teenager's Bed. It never made it. Making your bed's a waste of time anyways. I asked my daughter if she'd seen my newspaper. She told me that newspapers are old school. She said that people use tablets nowadays and handed me her iPad. That fly didn't stand a chance. A married man approaches a stunning woman in the supermarket and says, "I've lost my wife in the aisles. Do you mind if we talk for a while?" She asks him, "Wouldn't it be better to look for her than to talk to me?" "It won't be necessary. Every time I talk to a beautiful woman, my wife appears out of nowhere." It's like a homing device. It's an alert. My wife suggested that we recreate our first date. So we went separately to the bar. I walked up to her and said, "Can I buy you a drink?" She said, "Hell no, I'm not falling for that trick again." It's a unique way to divorce. I'm still angry at my parents for not buying me expensive rollerblades. Cheapskates. Gotta love a good pun. Two guys bump carts in a supermarket aisle. First guy says, "Sorry, I'm a bit distracted. I'm looking for my wife." Second guy says, "I'm looking for my wife too. What does your wife look like?" She's a stunning, beautiful, tall, big-boobed blonde, wearing a tiny crop top and very short miniskirt. What does your wife look like? Never mind, let's go find yours. He's upgrading. What do you call a person who hates homeless people? Hobophobic. My wife asked, "Did you eat the last pizza in the freezer?" I said, "Nah, I ate it in the living room." A police officer came to my house and asked where I was between 5 and 6. He seemed irritated when I answered, "Kindergarten." What do you call holy men who are obsessed with deep-fried potato products? Chipmunks. This one's good. I am definitely a chipmunk. My friend, with a stuttering problem, was just sent to prison. I fear he may never finish his sentence. What do you call a bear with no teeth? A gummy bear. A joke my son told me. Why is 9 afraid of 3? Because he was squared of him. My daughter saw that I only had ham and turkey on my Thanksgiving plate. "Which one do you like more?" she asked me. I'm not sure. Usually I don't pick sides. What did the dad reply to the mom, who said, "I've had enough. I'm selling my kid on eBay." "Don't be silly, you made him, so put him up on Etsy." My son was scared to tell me he failed his history exam. I said, "Don't worry, it's all in the past." I just came across my husband's Tinder profile, and I'm so angry about his lies. He is not fun to be around. Just opened 3 birthday cards, and so far I have $80. I love being a postman. I think that's a felony. I bought my wife a mood ring. It turns black when she's annoyed. Not sure if it turns any other colors. Uh-oh. The president typically pardons a turkey, but this year, he's pardoning a hunter. Hey, this one's really good. Political, but nice. Two atoms are walking down the street together. One says, "Oh no, I think I've lost an electron." To which the other replies with, "Are you positive?" Which rock group has 4 men who can't sing? Mount Rushmore. They are rocky indeed. I told my wife I like M&M, and she told me she prefers Skittles. I told her I meant the wrapper. She asked me why I would eat the wrapper. A guy walks into the bank, pulls out a gun, points it at the teller and screams, "Give me all your money or your geography." The teller replies, "Don't you mean history?" The robber says, "Don't change the subject." I was walking down the street this morning, and I was hit by a violin, then a clarinet, and then a French horn. I think it was an orchestrated attack. I saw a brunette walking her dogs. I asked, "What are your dogs' names?" She said, "Calvin and Klein." Isn't that a brand of underwear? Exactly. They're boxers. Nice one. My wife insists the Bible is placed next to our bed whenever we make love. This ensures we do it by the book. A very holy activity indeed. This morning my son asked, "Dad, when I grow up, can I have a gambling addiction like you?" I said, "You bet." Like father, like son, huh? Joke number 2. My wife told me to take the spider out instead of killing him. Went out, had a few drinks. Nice guy. He's a web designer. Oh my god. Fantastic. He even eats bugs for breakfast. Hey, that's my addition. Do you know what they call the coal that was never dug up? Never mind. Why does Voldemort stay out of everyone's business? Because he isn't nosy. Yep. I called 911 and said there was a wolf in my house. The police responded with, "Where?" I said, "No, it's a regular wolf." My wife texted me this morning and said, "You're great." I replied, "No, you're great." She's been in a great mood ever since. I should correct her grammar more often. Why should you never brush your teeth with your left hand? Well, because a toothbrush works much better. Just brushing out the... Well, that's my right hand. Not super effective. I guess it works in a pinch, though. I keep asking around what LGBTQ stands for. So far, I haven't gotten a straight answer. 3 men are on a boat. They have 4 cigarettes, but nothing to light them with. So they throw a cigarette overboard, and the whole boat becomes a cigarette lighter. I have a pen that writes underwater. It writes other words too. Impressive pen. What has 5 toes and isn't your foot? My foot. I showed my damaged luggage to my lawyer and said, "I want to sue the airline." "You don't have much of a case," he replied. The cops knocked on my door and said, "We're looking for a burglar with one eye." I said, "Wouldn't it be better to use both eyes?" Yes, it would. I failed my job interview because they said my communication skills were lacking. I honestly don't know what to say. Gotta work on those skills. What's the best present you can give someone? A broken drum. Nobody can beat that. God. What did Yoda say when he saw himself in 4K? HDMI. Just reverse it. It's great. How many potatoes does it take to kill an Irishman? None. God, this one's dark. I don't know if it's too soon. I got a new iPhone from my girlfriend. All things considered, it was a pretty good trade. What do you call a female mannequin? A mammakin. Waitress noticed my kid didn't finish her meal and asked her, "Want a box for that?" I said, "No, ma'am, but she'll wrestle you for it." Wouldn't that be fun if you could pay for food by just fighting the waitress? That'd be entertaining. My girlfriend Lorraine dumped me when she found out I was also seeing clearly. I can see clearly now, Lorraine is gone. I love that song. If I had a nickel for every woman who found me unattractive, eventually women would find me attractive. Gotta get enough money. How many apples does it take to make an apple pie? 3.14159265358, so on and so forth. After I spilled hot chai on my lap, my daughter told me my scream sounded like an autotune. I told her that's just what T-Pain sounds like. This is a very good one. And you know, it's funny and sad, kind of, because if you listen to T-Pain without autotune, he really does sound good. He's a great singer. He doesn't need it. Did you know that boys have 3 knees? A left knee, a right knee, and a weenie. Oh man, some of these jokes can't even. I met a girl on Tinder whose bio had the quote, "If I was meant to be controlled, I would have come with a remote." Joke's on her. I've been turning off women for years without a remote. Impressive. There are more hydrogen atoms in a single molecule of water than there are stars in our entire solar system. Well, this one just makes you think. Got 'em. My daughter told me that when she grows up, she wants to work for the Postal Service. I said that's a great idea, but it'll be tough working in such a male-dominated environment. Huh? I went on a walk into an enchanted forest to try and cut down a talking tree. "You can't cut me down," the tree exclaims. "I'm a talking tree." I responded, "You may be a talking tree, but you will die a log." I phoned my wife earlier and asked her if she wanted me to pick up fish and chips on my way home from work. She just grunted at me. I can tell she regrets letting me name the twins. Fish and chips. Oh man, I could never name my kids that because then I'd always be hungry. Terrible idea. The doctor told me, "You have cancer, but we can treat it." I asked, "What's the cure?" The doctor replied, "The Cure is a British rock band fronted by Robert Smith, but let's try to stay focused." Which country has the largest number of parks in the world? Korea. As a matter of fact, I'm good friends with 5 of them. This is wrong but great. It's a 5-minute walk from my house to the bar, but a 45-minute walk from the bar to my house. The difference is staggering. A lot of people don't know that you're actually born with 4 kidneys, and as you grow up, 2 of them become adult knees. Puns are too good. My wife thinks it's weird that I stare through the window during a heavy rainstorm. It would look a lot less weird if she would just let me in. Damn, that's a rough wife. It's like being in the doghouse, but outside. My son said to me, "Dad, today I watched someone do 50 push-ups. Do you think you could do that?" I said, "Of course, son. I don't want to brag, but I could probably watch someone do 100 push-ups." Yeah, if you observe, you don't get any benefits, but it still counts, right? If someone gave you $1,000 because you are ugly, would you take the money? Absolutely. I'm ugly, not stupid. If they find me ugly but give me $1,000, I mean, cool? Would it kill the makers of avocados to just put a different toy inside? I have like 50 wooden balls already. Hey, those toys can make more avocados, so pretty neat. My wife sat me down and said, "If I ever die, I don't want you to live out your days lonely." I tried to push it aside. "Oh no, honey, don't worry, that won't happen." She persisted. "Look, I mean it. I want you to move on, to find someone else and be happy. Maybe even remarry. Promise me." So I relented. Okay, I understand, I promise." "Oh, but please don't let her wear my clothes." So I said, "Oh, don't worry, she's not your size." He's already got options. What do you call an obese clairvoyant? A fortune teller. That one's really good. Barack Obama walked into a bar, but he was invisible. After attracting the bartender's attention, the bartender said, "Okay, I'll bite. Why are you invisible?" "Well, I found a bottle on the beach. I rubbed it, and a genie came out and said I could have 3 wishes. For my first wish, I said, Let me say this, and this is profoundly important. I want Michelle to marry me. I love her, and I think America will love her too. That wish was granted. For my second wish, I said, like all good Americans, I am deeply patriotic, and I want to be president of the United States so I can serve my country. That wish was granted too. And then for my third wish, I started by saying, let me be clear. Whoops. Always got to be careful with genies. I'm terrified of them. At dinner, my date leaned in and said, you're in luck tonight because I'm every letter of the alphabet except one. Intrigued, I asked, what do you mean? She smirked and said, I'm naughty. Give it a second. Last night, someone broke into my home and took a dozen eggs, but they left a saucepan filled with warm water. Police believe it was poachers. What did the seaman say when he found out that his wife had sex in exchange for 5 acres and a new house? Land ho! Last night, I had a horrifying dream that disco was actually making a comeback. At first, I was afraid. I was petrified. My girlfriend left me a note on the fridge this morning that said, this isn't working. So I called her and told her the fridge was working perfectly. I got pulled over today, and the cop asked if I know why he pulled me over. I replied, is it because you want to see how tall I am? He said, step out of the car, sir. See, I knew it. I can tolerate algebra, maybe even calculus, but geometry is where I draw the line. Honestly, yes, outside of the joke, I don't like geometry. I can handle numbers, but shapes and angles? Ugh. Singing in the shower is great, until you get shampoo in your mouth. Then it's just a soap opera. Have you heard that the Hulk started recycling recently? He's going green. The president needs to put deodorant on. He has a lingering musk. Whatever you think of Elon Musk, I actually think he's pretty cool. But yeah, he's definitely entwined with the presidency right now. My girlfriend told me she wanted to see a diamond on our anniversary, so I took her to a baseball game. I got thrown out of my local park after arranging the squirrels by height. They didn't like me criticizing. Once upon a time, there was a king that was only 12 inches tall. He was a terrible king, but he made a great ruler. Did you know a bowling alley is the quietest place in the world? You can hear a pin drop. My wife yelled from upstairs, honey, do you ever get a shooting pain across your body, like somebody has a voodoo doll of you and they're stabbing it? I replied, no. How about now? I always wondered if those worked. I don't think they do, but just the intent is what matters right now. Trump is selling a gold card that quickly gets you citizenship. I heard they're thinking of calling it the American Express Gold Card. I guess that fits. My wife convinced me to get orthopedic insoles. I thought it was a dumb idea at first. I stand corrected. My doctor told me I had a very good prostate. I was deeply touched. Way too deep. My friend named his dogs Rolex and Timex. They are his watchdogs. Nice. I said to my sheepdog, there's a rumor going around that you can also help with my cattle. He replied, that's not what I heard. My coworkers always laugh at my jokes during in-person meetings, but never when we meet via Zoom. When I asked why, they said, they're not remotely funny. I went to a psychic today, knocked on the door. She asked, who is it? I turned around and left. Well, yeah, if they can't know ahead of time, they're not it. Teacher, what do you mean you ate your homework? Why would you do this? Student, because you said it would be a piece of cake. Yeah, he wanted to make sure, but apparently you were lying. Maybe not, because the student did eat all of it, so it must have tasted pretty good. Which country never loses at sports, but also never wins? Thailand. Always a draw. Wife, trying to open a can of tuna. Our can opener is broken. Husband. So it's a can't opener? I can't believe I married you. Well, he's not wrong. Just a warning if you're buying a watch on Amazon. I learned the hard way that if it says you can swim with it, this only applies if you can already swim without it. 8 bees can kill you, but if you add one more bee, you are safe, because it's B9. What do you call a cult that is hard to get into? Difficult. When my wife was in labor, I told her jokes to distract her from the pain, but she didn't laugh at all. Must have been the delivery. My wife died because I couldn't remember her blood type. She was always strong. Even in her last breath, she was insisting, "Be positive! Be positive!" But it's hard to be positive without her. Why do sperm cells look like commas and apostrophes? They often interrupt periods and lead to contractions. I saw a man being beat up by 3 dudes and I jumped in to help. He didn't stand a chance against the 4 of us. What's it called when you drink holy water mixed with laxatives? A religious movement. Holy, you know what. My girlfriend unexpectedly dumped me shortly after her organ transplant. She said she had a change of heart. Come on. My wife found out I was cheating on her after she found all the letters I was hiding. She got mad and said she's never playing Scrabble with me again. I'll never forget what my granddad said to me before he croaked. He said, "Hey kid, want to hear my frog impression?" I got an email saying, "At Google Earth, we can read maps backwards," and I thought, that's just spam. My son came to me the other day and said, "Dad, I'm no longer a girl." "Well, son," I said, "I'm no longer opaque." This one took me a few seconds. He's no longer transparent. At dinner, my date asked if I had any special talents. "Actually, yes," I said. "I grew up on a farm which allowed me to become a horse whisperer." She leaned in, intrigued. "Really? How does that work?" I leaned in closer and whispered in her ear. "Horse." I was fishing with my dad and not having a great time. I said to him, "My feet are wet and it smells terrible." "Yeah," my dad replied. "I'm in the same boat." On my way to work this morning, I yelled, "Cow!" at a woman riding a bicycle. She gave me the middle finger, told me to go to hell, and then plowed into the cow. This one is really good. A warning, not a description. I took my daughter to a pet store, where I looked over at the parrots. "Hey, could I get one of these for my daughter?" I asked the clerk. "Sorry, we only take cash, not trades." Bring back the barter system. I told my wife I'd like to be cremated, so she made an appointment for next Tuesday. Fred came home from university in tears. "Mom, am I adopted?" "No, of course not," replied his mother. "Why would you think such a thing?" Fred showed her his genealogy DNA test results. No match for any of his relatives, and strong matches for a family who lived on the other side of the city. Shocked, his mother called her husband. "Honey, Fred has done a DNA test and I don't know how to say this, he may not be our son." "Well, obviously," he replied. "What do you mean?" she asked, confused. "It was your idea in the first place," her husband continued. "You remember that first night in the hospital when the baby did nothing but scream and cry, on, and you asked me to change him? Well, I picked a good one, I reckon. Ever so proud of Fred." I often wonder how often that happens. Does it happen where people switch out babies in the hospital? Not intentionally, just accidentally. At a job interview, the company director asked a candidate, "Why are you asking for such a high salary when you have no experience in this field?" Candidate, "Well, the job is much harder when you don't know what you're doing." I just realized that the word 7 has even in it. That's odd. Trump likes to think he's a visionary, like Steve Jobs. But that's like comparing an orange to an apple. What do you call the most famous cow of all time? Legendary. think this is the most classic dad joke. Perfection. I showed my damaged luggage to the lawyer and said, "I'd like to sue the airline." The lawyer said, "You don't have much of a case." A woman noticed her husband standing on the bathroom scale, sucking in his stomach. "Ha, that's not going to help," she said. "Sure it does," he said. "It's the only way I can see the numbers." My ex-wife was struck by lightning. Now she's my current wife. Unlimited power. Today I decided to go visit my childhood home. I asked the residents if I could come inside because I was feeling nostalgic, but they refused and slammed the door in my face. My parents are the worst. Damn. Disowned. What did Snow White say when her photocopier took so long? Someday my prince will come. Why is dark spelled with a K and not a C? Because you can't see in the dark. 77% of people are idiots. Fortunately, I belong to the 33% of intelligent people. A wealthy man tells another guy, "I'll give you $50,000, but your worst enemy gets double that." The guy smiles and says, "Cool, I've always wanted $150,000. Yeah, we are our own worst enemies, aren't we? A man knocked on my door today, asking for donations for the local swimming pool. I gave him a glass of water. You can't complain about that, it is a donation, okay? A very relevant donation. I renamed my toilet Jim instead of John. People will be impressed when I tell them I go to the gym every morning. I asked a ninja if they knew how to throw one of those ninja star things. They said, "Sure I can." My wife read a draft of a mystery novel I'm working on. She goes, "I don't get it. In chapter 2, you randomly wrote, shadow, 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 shadow. What the hell does that even mean?" I'm like, "Babe, it's called foreshadowing." My wife called me last night and said, "If you're not home in 10 minutes, I'm giving the dinner I cooked for you to the dog." I was home in 5 minutes. I'd hate to subject my dog to that. A guy asked me, "What's the fastest way to get to downtown from here?" I asked him, "Are you walking or driving?" "Driving," he said. "Yep," I said, "that's the fastest way." My wife asked me, "How many men does it take to open a beer?" I said, "None. It should already be open when you bring it to me." Dangerous. My wife asked me, "Is it just me or is the cat getting fat?" Apparently, "It's just you" was not the right answer. Nope. No, it most surely was not. My 11-year-old son came up with this. What's a humiliated musical instrument called? An accordion. What do you call a woman standing in the middle of a tennis court? A net. I got fired from the keyboard factory. They said I wasn't putting in enough shifts. I'm putting my 6-year-old to bed and he says, "Dad, I have kidneys. You have dad knees." I just found out Albert Einstein was a real person. All this time I just thought he was a theoretical physicist. What has 4 letters, sometimes has 9 letters, but never has 5 letters? This is more of a puzzle than a joke. I just spent $600 on a limo rental, but forgot to hire a driver. All that money and nothing to show for it. PSA: if you're ever assaulted by a knight or a bishop, you need to get to a hospital immediately. Chest pains are a medical emergency. I like that one. I went to McDonald's today. I smiled at the bloke and said, "Can I have a small shake, please?" He told me to frick off and walked out of the men's toilets. Me: where are we going? Dad: to get our new glasses. Me: then what? Dad: we'll see. The bartender says, "We don't serve time travelers in here." A time traveler walks into the bar. A pirate walks into a bar with a paper towel on his head. The bartender asks, "Hey, what's with the paper towel?" "Ah, I've got a bounty on me head." I ask my daughter, "What's a Mountain Dew?" She answered, "As far as I know, it just sits there." I told the joke during a Teams call, but no one laughed. Turns out, I'm not even remotely funny. What has 5 fingers, but is in your hand? My hand. My girlfriend borrowed $100 from me. After 3 years, when we separated, she returned exactly $100. I lost interest in that relationship. My girlfriend said, "You act like a detective too much. I want to split up." "Good idea," I replied. "That way we can cover more ground." I accidentally gave my wife a glue stick instead of her lipstick. She still isn't talking to me. I went on a job interview. The interviewer asked, "What is your greatest weakness?" I replied, "I'm too honest." The interviewer said, "I don't think honesty is a weakness." I said, "I don't give a fluck what you think." Excessive honesty is perhaps a weakness. I went on a couple dates with a pirate. At first I was skeptical, but then I spent a night in bed with her. That's when I was hooked. Yar, matey. Math is hard. 15 plus 15 is 30, but 16 plus 16 is 32. Did you know Taylor Swift was named after Albert Einstein? Yeah, 110 years after. I was making out with my girlfriend on the couch. She said, "Want to take this to the bedroom?" Me, "Alright, I'll grab this end, you get the other." My son likes elevators. My daughter likes escalators. They are raised differently. My daughter is a 10-year-old who people think is 15. She's been at the 99th percentile for height her entire life. She normally eats like a horse, but for the last couple of days she hasn't finished her lunch. She says she's just not hungry. Me, maybe that means your growth is slowing down. Child, that would be a relief. Why is that a relief? Well, you always like being tall? Not always, but being tall gets you a lot of respect. Why? People really look up to you. She proceeded to chase me around the house, trying to whack me on the head. Fair. I'm sorry and I apologize usually mean the same thing, but not at a funeral. My girlfriend said that I have no sense of direction, so I packed my things and write. My wife saw on her phone that there had been a massive fire just down the street from us. She goes, "Oh my God, do you think it was arson?" I'm like, "No, he'd never do something like that." My son came to me and said, "Dad, did you know Tokyo is the most populated city?" "I'm pretty sure it's Rio de Janeiro." "No, it's Tokyo with 37 million. "Yeah, but Rio's got a Brazilian." "How much is a Brazilian?" "It's more than a quadrillion, right?" What did the man say when he was reversing his car? Ah, yes, this takes me back. Reminiscing. How do you get a farm girl to marry you? First, a tractor. I dig, you dig, we dig, she dig, he dig, they dig. It's not a beautiful poem, but it's very deep. My girlfriend was looking at buying a pear tree, and she said they can grow 18, 20 feet. I said I'd prefer if it grew pears. Growing feet. Can you imagine a tree that actually did that? God. SCUBA stands for the Self-Contained Underwater Breathing Apparatus, but did you know TUBA is also an acronym for Terrible Underwater Breathing Apparatus? I found a book called How to Solve 50% of Your Problems, so I bought 2 books. Yep, that ought to cover 100%, right? That's how it works. I was abducted by aliens. They made me wash my hands, clean my room, and eat my vegetables. Turns out I was on the mothership. Today, my 5-year-old son told me they should rename pterodactyls to Skinosaurs. Appropriate. What do you call a Viking who lost his boat? A hiking. Most people don't know that back in 1912, Hellmann's mayonnaise was manufactured in England. In fact, the Titanic was carrying 1,720,000 jars of the condiment scheduled for delivery in Veracruz, Mexico. This would have been the largest single shipment of mayonnaise ever delivered to Mexico. But as we know, the great ship did not make it to New York. The ship hit an iceberg and sank, and the cargo was lost forever. The people of Mexico,
who are crazy about mayonnaise and were eagerly awaiting its delivery, were saddened by the loss. Their anguish was so great that they declared a national day of mourning, which they still observe to this day, known as Cinco de Mayo. That was a long one, but it paid off. The therapist asked the wife why she wanted to end her marriage. She said she hated all the constant Star Wars Day puns. The husband looked at the therapist and said, "Divorce is strong with this one." My wife was sick in bed, so I took the sheets off of her and then put them back on. Confused, she looked at me as I said, "There, you are now recovered." Why did Karen press Ctrl-Alt and Delete? She wanted to see the task manager. I just asked my 9-year-old son what he learned in school today. He said, "Apparently not enough because I have to go back tomorrow." I'm so proud of him. Never pay for a gym trainer, guys. It's a complete waste of money. He just sits around while I do all the heavy lifting. Only 2 years ago, my wife's gynecologist delivered pizza. Still to this day, they both think it's a terrible name. Yeah. Imagine naming your kid pizza or any kind of food that's delicious. You'd always be thinking of that every time they're around. Be bad for dieting. Today I learned that in order to open a zoo, you must have at least 4 pandas, 2 grizzlies, 3 black, 4 brown, and 1 polar. Apparently that's the bare minimum. I was on a train and this woman opposite looked at me and said, "Every time you smile, I feel like inviting you to my place." I asked, "Are you single?" She replied, "No, I'm a dentist." Damn. Tinder is completely useless, and I don't have a single match. If I don't find another way to start a campfire tonight, I'll freeze to death. You know how in some sports, they toss the ball to the fans after a victory? You're not supposed to do that in bowling. I know that now. Damn, someone's skull got crushed. Oh boy, hard lesson to learn. What kind of music should you play when you're fishing? Something catchy, of course. My son was just born, and another dad at the nursery congratulated me and said his daughter was born yesterday. Said maybe they'll marry each other. Sure, like my son is going to marry someone twice his age. My daughter was upset that it was raining and said, "I wish I had a weapon that could shoot the rain and make it go away." Obviously, I told her that would never work. For that, you need a rainbow. My 16-year-old son wanted to know what it was like to be a parent, so I woke him at 2 a.m. to tell him my sock had come off. I was in the bar last night when the waitress yells, "Does anyone know CPR?" I yelled back, "I know all those letters." Everyone laughed, well, except this one guy. The longest drum solo in history was 6 hours and 28 minutes, performed by a child sitting behind me on the flight to Toronto. That would be annoying. A comma in a sentence can make a huge difference. For instance, "Let's eat, Frank," has a completely different meaning from "Frank is in a coma." I got in a casual argument with a grizzly bear once, made him so angry he started to turn white. I stopped immediately, as it was clear he found the issue polarizing. God, stupid word puns are amazing. If my name was David and I had a boy, I would have to name him Harley. That way he could introduce himself. "I'm Harley, David's son." What's heavier, a liter of water or a liter of butane? Water. In fact, no matter how much water you have, butane will always be a lighter fluid. How's a beer sound, Norm? I don't know. I usually finish them before they get a word in. Rest in peace to George Wendt, aka Norm. He was in Cheers, which I never saw, but I just saw that he passed away, and, that's always sad. Immediately after the birth of our son, I gave my exhausted wife strawberries, apples, and bananas. She deserves to enjoy the fruits of her labor. I checked my phone and had like 50 texts from my wife. "Call me ASAP." I text back, "I'd rather keep calling you babe, but sure." Apple filled 20 jumbo jets with iPhones and flew them to the US to avoid tariffs. Imagine how long it took to put them all in airplane mode. I am Buzz Aldrin, second man to step on the moon. kneel before me. A photon checks into a hotel. Clerk asks, "Can I take your baggage?" Photon says, "No, I'm traveling light." An infinite number of mathematicians walk into a bar. The first says, "I'll have a beer." The second says, "I'll have half a beer." The third says, "I'll have a quarter of a beer," etc. The bartender interrupts them, says, "I know your limit," and pours them 2 beers. They'll never get to 2. If they attempt Mission Impossible 8 times in a row and succeed every single time, shouldn't it be called Mission Very Very Likely by now? Facts. Still entertaining though. A raisin, a peanut, and a note. Sit down and order a drink. Bartender says, "What do you think this is? A granola bar?" That's good. Some people think that the shovel was a groundbreaking invention, but I think that the whiteboard was remarkable. I asked my girlfriend what book she was reading. She said, "The Invisible Man." I said, "I can't see myself reading that." Beyoncé is refusing to hire roofing companies that aren't woman-owned. She hires only shingle ladies, only shingle ladies, only shingle ladies, only shingle ladies. I was at the grocery store and the kid bagging my stuff asked if I wanted paper or plastic. I told him I didn't care and he could decide for me. He told me that I had to pick because baggers can't be choosers. Did you know Vin Diesel only eats 2 meals a day, breakfast and break furious? And he always eats with family. Woke up holding a wooden spoon and mixing bowl. My wife said, "Rough night?" I'm like, "Yeah, how'd you know?" "You were stirring in your sleep." I asked my wife why she hadn't wanted to drive her new car around for the first 90 days. She said it was part of the finance agreement. 0% interest for the first 3 months. My wife and I were cuddling last night when she said, "Show me a good time." So I stepped outside and ran an 11-second 100-meter sprint. Nice. A truck full of Vicks Vapor Rub crashed in the middle of the highway during rush hour. Amazingly, no congestion at all. Every day, I tell my wife I'm going jogging, then don't do it. It's a running joke. My uncle retired this week after being a lumberjack for 40 years. At his retirement party, he said he knew that in his career, he cut down exactly 27,419 trees. I asked him how he knew, and he said, "Every time I cut down a tree, I keep a log." Sadly, the inventor of the throat lozenge has died. There will be no coffin at his funeral. I was cuddling with my wife when she said, "Treat me like I'm a queen." So I married her off to our neighbor to strengthen our political alliance. Nice. My wife really hates it when my 20-year-old neighbor sunbathes topless. Me, I'm on the fence. I just got fired from my job at the ice cream factory. I refuse to work on Sundays. I just eat them all. My wife asked me why I never buy her flowers. I didn't even know she sold flowers. I called the tinnitus hotline. It just kept ringing. The blind man went to buy a beer, and when it was time to pay, he asked how much it cost. The saleswoman said, "It's $5. So he took out a $5 and a $50 bill and asked which one was the $5 bill. The saleswoman, wanting to rob him, touched the hand with the $50 bill. So he held out his hand with the $5 and said, "I'm going to buy 10 beers then." She played herself. My girlfriend broke up with me, so I stole her wheelchair. Guess who came crawling back? I bought a second-hand time machine last Sunday. They just don't make them like they're going to anymore. I married my wife for her personality. I didn't realize it came as a variety pack, and some days I'm lucky enough to sample all 6 flavors. The CEO of IKEA has become the Prime Minister of Sweden. He is currently assembling his cabinet. Might take a while, probably fragile too. My wife begged, "Please stop introducing our kids as your godson." I'm like, sure, as soon as he stops doing unhinged crazy crap that has me screaming, "My God, son!" My daughter came to me worried today and said, "Dad, I'm so worried. Did you hear about the bombings?" I replied, "Bombings?" She said, "Yeah, I ran." I replied, "Well, I would run too if bombs were falling." She gave me the coldest dead-eye stare. It was great. I'm sure it was. What do you think, Dave? Would you run too? Yeah. We watched a documentary about U-Haul last night on Netflix. My wife didn't think it was that interesting. Me, I thought it was genuinely moving. Terrible news. I caught the peekaboo virus. Ended up in the ICU. I got arrested today for walking out of a museum with a painting. I was just so confused, because earlier when I asked if I could take a picture, he said yeah. My cannibal girlfriend asked if I had anything we could make for dinner. Broke and a little embarrassed, I said, "All I have is ramen." She lit up and said, "Sounds great, I have that all the time." Had to pause for a second on this one. It is funny and gross. I was shocked to find out my son had an AI girlfriend. He told me he was dating a model. The man who came up with the concept of wind chill has died. He was 86, but he felt like 75. What do you call a flying nun? A bird, a plane? Nope, none of the above. I can't believe how hot it is today. It's so hot that my garlic had to take its clothes off. Imagine they could do that on their own. That'd be great. I hate peeling garlic, but I love garlic so much. My husband and I just had our 20th year anniversary. Now he's telling everyone that he has a 20-year-old wife. Well, he's not technically wrong. My wife found out I was cheating on her after she found all the letters I was hiding. She got mad and said she's never playing Scrabble with me again. I went out for a Chinese meal last night and chatted with the old waiter. He told me he lived in Japan during the war and had been a kamikaze pilot. His code name? Chow Mein. I said, "Wait, didn't kamikaze pilots sacrifice their lives?" He smiled and said, "Yes, but I was chicken Chow Mein." Why is Chuck Norris so bad at math? He knows no equal. I like that one. Good old Chuck Norris jokes never get old. Imagine being Chuck Norris, so iconic that literally everyone believes you're a god, pretty much. What a legend. My wife hid my prosthetics, and now I can't find them. I have to admit, I'm stumped. I told my son I built a model of Mount Everest. He asked, "Is it to scale?" I replied, "No, son, it is to look at." They smoke cannabis, overthrow the government. Call it a haiku. What kind of doctor is Dr. Pepper? A physician. And he is the best doctor. Yeah. I saw this reel on Instagram of a lady that was over 100, a centenarian, and she drinks Dr. Pepper every single day because she's smart. Keep doing it. I asked my girlfriend if she would choose me in a room full of men, and what she did next gave me chills. She turned on the AC. I've begun to invest heavily in stocks, beef, chicken, and vegetable. One day I hope to be a billionaire. Yummy. What do you call a bee that can't make up its mind? A maybe. What do you call a man lying by your front door? Matt. I always make sure to say mucho around my Spanish-speaking friends. It means a lot to them. Apparently I snore so loudly, it terrifies everyone in the car I'm driving. I was wondering why music was coming from my printer. Apparently, the paper was jamming. Oh yeah. Did you know milk is the fastest liquid on the planet? It's pasteurized before you can even see it. Very good wordplay. I just built an ATM that only gives out coins. I don't know why no one's thought of it before. It just makes sense. My neighbor couldn't afford to pay his water bill. I sent him a get well soon card. Dear optimist, pessimist, and realist. While you were arguing about the glass of water, I drank it. Sincerely, the opportunist. 9 months isn't really that long. It only feels like a maternity. When my wife is sad, I let her color in my tattoos. Turns out, she just needs a shoulder to cry on. My son just ran up to me waving his tablet and screaming, "Daddy, my internet isn't working." What is it? It's a worldwide network of computers and other systems that all speak to each other, but that's not important right now. Turns out he'd put it in airplane mode by accident. I met a guy from North Korea and asked him what his country was like. He said he can't complain. He definitely can't. My friend asked me what the 9th letter of the alphabet was. It was a complete guess, but I was right. I gave my handyman a to-do list, but he only did jobs 1, 3, and 5. Turns out he only does odd jobs. I recently found out they don't have the real Mona Lisa in the Louvre. It turns out it's just a painting of her. After we left Costco and started the long walk back to our car, my wife looked at me and asked, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm just going through a lot right now." I told my wife that her new lacy bra hugs the curves in all the right places. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Take that off." Hey, experimental, right? At least he has an open mind. I once dated a girl who had a twin, and people often asked if or how I could tell them apart. I said it was easy. Allison painted her nails red, and Bob had a beard. As I handed my dad his 50th birthday card, he looked at me with tears in his eyes and said, "You know, one would have been enough." The Beastie Boys announced an upcoming 5-part anthology collection. You can get parts A, B, C, and D for free, but you gotta fight for your right to part E. Chuck Norris once threw a grenade that killed 50 people. Then it exploded. 71% of the world is water. None of it is carbonated. The earth is flat. Texted my wife to tell her Hulk Hogan died. She replied, "WTF?" I responded, "No, he was WWF." Apparently they changed the name from WWF, World Wrestling Foundation or something, to a WWE. There's some copyright issue, I don't know, but interesting. Shame that Hulk Hogan died, though. I remember a movie with him that was in it. He was a bodyguard for some kid. Forgot the name of it, but yeah, the kid was crazy. He tried to electrocute him or something. What is the big deal about that couple hugging at a Coldplay concert? I'm really not up to date with current affairs. My massage therapist was having the most difficult time working on my back. She asked, "On a 1 to 10 scale, how stressed are you?" I said, "Honestly, only like 0.2. She nodded and said, "That explains it. You're too tense." I told my wife that I was going to take her to the fancy new restaurant that opened up downtown tomorrow night. She's like, "That sounds great. Do you have reservations?" No, I'm actually really excited. Just got home to find my wife has been on eBay all day. If she's still on there tomorrow, I'll lower the price. What's the original asking price going? I told my boss that we need to stop hiring people under 5 foot tall. We are constantly short-staffed. A friend of mine just got her PhD, told her to go to a restaurant, order a meal, and when the food arrives, say, "That's just what the doctor ordered." Knock knock, who's there? Britney Spears. Knock knock, who's there? Britney Spears. Oops, I did it again. I've asked my wife to polish my medieval battle uniform while I go to the pub. She always said she wanted a knight in shining armor. "What's your name, boy?" Cop asked the young man. Peter, sir," he replied. "Do you have a stutter?" asked the cop kindly. He answered, "No, sir, my dad has a stutter, but the guy who filled out my birth certificate was a kind of a jerk." R.I.P. boiling water, you will be missed. No, really, you really steamed me up. Good riddance. I asked the waiter, "Will my pizza be long?" He said, "No, it'll be round." A guy in a leather jacket told me if I gave him $100, after 6 weeks, he would pay me $500. Turned out to be a Fonzie scheme. Which word becomes shorter if you add 2 letters? Short. If you take the first 2 letters of the title of each of the 7 Harry Potter books, it spells out a secret message. Ha ha ha. Walked into the local pizza restaurant where they sell pizza slices, along with full pizzas, salads, beer, etc. While I was standing in the glass case where the slices are on display, choosing a few to take home, and a young kid behind the case asks if the gentleman next to me needs help. As he peers into the case, he says, "No, I'm just looking for my wife." To which I reply, "Well, she's not in there." The man looks at me like I'm a nutjob, while the kid is trying to hold it together. I met a sexy Welsh girl at a party. She said, "Hey, why don't you come back to mine?" So I did, and spent the next 20 years mining coal. Gotta read the fine print. One of my students asked, "Mr. China, is that your real last name?" I replied, "No, it's actually my maiden name." I came home today to find my wife left a note on the TV saying, "This isn't working." So imagine my relief when I pressed the button and it switched on. The owner of a men's department store kept hovering over me, so I asked him to leave me alone. He said, "Fine, suit yourself." I sneezed at the dinner table, and my mother-in-law said something like, "Gesundheit." I had no idea what she meant by that. Probably a blessing in disguise. My wife divorced me because she said I was more interested in sports than saving our marriage. It's a pity, because we were together for 7 seasons. Nice. I mean, hopefully you get renewed for an 8th, but who knows. Video up here, YouTube thinks you'll like it, check it out, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe. See you next time.